Hey, everybody. Welcome to Keller Bear Has a Podcast, not to be confused with the Tim Keller Sermons podcast. You're here for that. You've made a terrible mistake.
Yeah, it's a good distinction.
I'm Michael. As usual, I'm joined by Stacy, Trey, and Sean. This is the podcast where each episode we take a pop culture topic and go around the horn giving opinions you didn't ask for. This episode, we're finishing up our conversation about the sitcoms of our lives. And we're recording this the day before St. Patrick's Day. So I am drinking Guinness.
Nice. Cheers.
In honor of that.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
I'm drinking cat piss, so. I'm just kidding. I held it up as like in the camera. That looks like just murky urine.
Ill advised.
You're going real Celtic, like way back with it.
I'm going the opposite of Celtic. I'm going red clay, Alabama. So
nice.
Very Irish.
I'm drinking a Mexican lager. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Full body herbal tea here.
Nice.
Full body
herbal. Full body. Yeah. I don't know what that means, but I feel like it's a word y'all would use.
It's a nice mouthfeel.
Tea is at least, British Isles-ish.
Yeah.
Oppressors.
Some Irish breakfast tea going. That's some good stuff.
You have anything in it?
The tea?
In your tea, yes.
Oh, yes. Some Burleson honey.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, keeping it local.
Straight from Burleson.
Hey, is it true? Is it true that local honey helps your allergies?
Mm-hmm. It is.
I've heard that, but I don't really know.
I've heard that as well. And I drink about a quart every day and nothing.
Of honey? What are you, Winnie the Pooh?
Yeah, no, I'm that's obviously a joke. No,
is it obviously a joke?
Yeah, I mean the reaction is a concern for me, really. That you all might actually think that I drink that much honey.
I think it was the use of quart. Like if you just said a lot, and you were very specific about it.
And the word drink, like just downing honey, like you're chugging it. Yeah. Like what is going on? It's for my allergies.
I get my hands stuck in the pot. And I walk around with a shirt, no pants. It's weird.
No, it does. It helps. I mean, it's not going to like solve your allergies. It's not going to just make you not have them. But yeah, it helps.
I'll keep drinking it just to try.
And what's weird is I get honey from other states because I think it tastes good in my tea.
Gotcha.
But I probably should get local honey.
I try to cure myself of other states' allergies.
See, that's the thing is, I drink honey before I go to that state
for travel purposes,
for vacation, so that I don't get sick. Yeah, it makes sense.
Do you have favorite states? I mean, for the honey, not just in general.
I forget what honey it's called, and I guess I do have an answer to this question, but I forget what honey it's called, but it's from Tennessee. It's a honey from Tennessee that's really good in a black tea.
Also, now I want to do states of your life, and
that sounds good.
That
would be fun.
That could work. That could work.
Write it down, Trey. I don't think
the secretary of his group.
Trey, you want to start us off?
Yeah. So sitcom that changed your life. I feel like this one's hard for me. Just I again, even with the bands, I probably take it way too far. Just thinking changed your life, like it has to be something monumental. But eventually I just gave in to what was sort of the first one that popped in my head, and it was Scrubs. Scrubs changed my life in the way of how I perceive sitcoms and really a lot of television in general, because Scrubs is obviously a sitcom. Granted, up until that point, most of the sitcoms I had watched were more adult in nature, like, Frasier, Friends, things like that. Stuff that I should not have been watching at such a young age, probably. But we're all just humorous based. They didn't really deal a lot with the deeper things of life, the deeper sides of life. And Sitcoms was really the first sitcom, and really TV show at all that did that. It's a sitcom, but it also delved into depression. It delved into aging. Several characters on the show had depression. Carla, one of the main nurses, They had a whole series of episodes devoted to her dealing with postpartum depression. Dr. Cox, one of the main doctors on the series, him losing a patient, and then over the course of a couple episodes dealing with depression. Dick Van Dyke had a great cameo role in one episode where he was an aging doctor that was just not keeping up with the times. And eventually they realized that, he was using outdated medicine, and it was not his unwillingness. It was just he had gotten so old and past the prime that he couldn't understand it. So a lot of that makes it sound really dark and depressing. There were a lot of really humorous moments. There were a couple great bottle episodes. There was a couple. One of my favorite things was the janitor, played by Neil Flynn. They did a whole sort of meta reality where they introduced The Fugitive, which Neil Flynn played the cop on The Fugitive. And then JD, the main character in Scrubs, realized the janitor was the cop in Fugitive. So a lot of great comedic bits, but it was really the first comedy sitcom I'd ever watched that delved into some of the deeper, more emotional sides of life as well. And I was, if I remember correctly, 14 when Scrubs started on television. So it was really my first exposure to a lot of that, especially growing up in a pretty guarded evangelical world. If you felt depressed, you just weren't praying hard enough. So the seeing that play out, especially in a situational comedy, had some pretty profound and lasting effects on me. And on a much, much less serious note, so I say Scrubs season 1 through 8 changed my life. But then I went back and thought, no, season 9 did too, because season 9 shows that you can do something great for 8 seasons, change the cast, and it can still be really awful, even though you've had 8 really good years of good stuff. If you change things, it can be really, really bad very, very quickly. So season 9 also changed my life in that perspective as well. So
Actually never watched that through. I had a lot of friends in college that were really into it, and so it was on a lot at their apartments and stuff. So I feel like I watched a lot of it, but I have no line or any knowledge of how the show kind of plays.
yeah.
I was about to say, I feel like I remember watching a lot of Scrubs in college with you there.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, we didn't, in my house, we didn't have cable. And so it was local shows. If we watched whatever was on the local channels, and it was on NBC. And so it just became something I really enjoyed at that time. It is not something, I guess, that has aged well. I say go back and watch it if you haven't, because it's a good show. Just remember, it was 20 years ago that it started. Zach Braff and Donald Faison have a podcast they're doing now. I can't remember the name of it, but they're going back and rewatching it, and they're talking about the shows and the development of the entire show over their time on it. And even they'll admit that there are some, homophobic remarks, there's some sexist remarks, things like that. But it's all sort of thing that, it was 20 years ago, and it was something that was acceptable at the times that anyone, even the creator, I think the creator was Bill Lawrence, would tell you now that is not something that would play or they'd even try. They were going for a laugh, but it's something that was done at a time where things were less frowned upon like that, and they just weren't thought of more than an intent to hurt or anything like that.
I'm pretty sure, at least for me, it was it ushered in the bromance thing.
Oh yeah, definitely.
In terms of JD and Turk's relationship,
Mm-hmm.
I actually think they did a service to a lot of men watching that show.
Oh yeah, and there's a real genuine love between the two characters,
right?
And
they're
tell.
best friends in real life.
Yeah.
So it that's just
in a way, maybe combating some toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Right? I mean,
For sure.
Because I do that stuck with me too. I mean, even just catching it on in other people's places, that idea of such a close male friendship really did have an impact on me as somebody that just kind of had it on in the background from time to time.
And it's interesting to think how that before around that time, like that was not a thing. Like now you see it
Mhm.
everywhere, which is great. But I really do think Scrubs might have been the first one to really do that, to portray a male friendship in that way.
Well, and it was
I-
from the beginning that they're like
Yeah.
that they love each other and they're friends. And you see that in sitcoms where it's like they're friends and then they have this one episode where they like tell each other that they love each other, and but that it's never like there's never that
Then it goes
intimacy
back to,
ever
to
again.
quote unquote normal. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
like punching each other in the shoulder again, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, and coming off of Friends, the opposite of everything I said earlier, coming off of Friends, it received some praise because there was a little bit more diversity in the cast where,
Yeah.
Yeah.
there's 6 main characters. One of them is a Latina, one of them is a Black man, and they're portrayed as like working medical professionals, as opposed to typically at that time, if you had minorities on shows, they were typically, lower working class or, poor, homeless, something like that. So it has received some praise as well for that aspect of trying to being an early adopter of portraying minorities in a positive light.
I also was like around it a lot in college and high school, and it was just on all the time. And I sat down and watched a bunch of episodes, but I've never seen it like all the way through. Right. So probably a couple months ago, I went back to watch it again. And like Trey was saying, not all of it holds up, like we're in a definitely in a different time, but it is funny as hell. Like
It is.
really funny. I haven't made it through the first season, but it's really funny. And I think we should all go ahead and give it a go.
It's the first pilot I can ever remember watching where I watched it like the actual premiere on television and I could not stop laughing. Like I was losing my breath. Granted, I was 14, but I mean, I was hooked from the start. It's the janitor and JD's relationship is a great comedic relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I use that gif of Dr. Cox, is that his name? Banging his head against the thing.
Oh, yeah.
I use that
Yeah.
a lot.
I used that today actually on
really?
Twitter.
Wow.
On Twitter, yeah. So it's a good fun fact for you.
See?
I feel heard.
A sitcom that changed my life. I approached this in a way of kind of thinking about how a sitcom may have like affected me the most in terms of just like my own development as a human being, for good or for ill. One definitely for ill. And we've already talked about it, but mine is Friends, for a couple of reasons. For the first reason is I think that Chandler, that character, was a big kind of accidental inspiration for me, and I've had that like ever since Friends became big. People would tell me that I reminded them of Chandler, which is kind of a backhanded compliment in a lot of ways, because it's like, oh, he's funny. Then there's a lot of other bad things about Chandler. But I do think that I took on a lot of that kind of smart-assy humor. But the biggest thing with Friends is a negative thing. And I do like the show a lot. But man, Friends really like screwed up my understanding of what romantic relationships were supposed to be. And it convinced me that you weren't like, it wasn't a good relationship unless like you were off and on and like somebody was doing the chasing, the pursuing, and like, and then like, but when you were together, it was boring. I don't know. It really screwed up a lot of things for young Michael. And any of my girlfriends in high school who are definitely not listening to this would tell you like, yeah, like it's like it convinced me that you just needed some sort of drama to have, like, for it to be exciting. And I don't think I'm the only person in this boat. I think this is a thing that swept the country in a lot of ways. This again,
generation.
Yes, this idea that like it's just things need to be rocky for it to be exciting and for it to be fun, instead of just like that's not at all like what it's supposed to be like, and it's not fun. Stop telling yourself that it's fun.
Isn't that a very four thing too?
Yeah.
Like, that's a very four thing.
Yes. Friends preyed upon me. Yes. As a four, I think Friends preyed upon me very much. I cared a little bit too much about Ross and Rachel. That was my Sam and Diane, like growing up. And yeah.
I think it was for most of our generation.
I mean, it was,
will they, won't
it's
they?
shorthand. Like Ross
we were
and
on
Rachel,
a break. Like that's an iconic relationship for our generation.
they were on a break, by the way.
They were
I'm
literally on a break.
I'm with Ross on that one. They were 100%. On a break.
100%.
Also, but just to talk about Friends in a positive light, though, I do really like Friends. I for some reason it was one of those that like you would hear preached about from pulpits a lot. That it was destroying people, and like I said, I think it did destroy some of us in some ways, but not in the ways that preachers were saying it was. Because preachers, man, I heard this time and time again from different preachers that all Friends was just a show about a bunch of friends just having sex with each other, and that's all it was. And I'm like, that's not even true. Like, two separate couples had sex in that show, and spoiler alert, they both ended up together by the end of the show. Sorry. And so but literally preachers would act like it was just a 30-minute orgy on screen of just friends just having sex with one another. And that's just not even true at all. And
on network television.
It's interesting. I've never heard that criticism of Friends.
Oh man.
The criticism I always heard, and I referenced it in the last podcast, was life is not spent in a coffee house. And that's taken from Bill Gates. Bill Gates gave a commencement speech like in the late 90s where he told people, he's like, work hard, do your best. And remember, life is not spent in a coffee house, like criticizing the fact that and there's even one episode.
What if I work in a coffee house?
Right.
Yeah. Well, there's one episode where I think Phoebe's unemployed and the rest of them actually have jobs, and they're all sitting there and they're like all complaining about how their bosses hate them or they're having a hard time at work. And Phoebe goes, well, maybe it's because you're all sitting at a coffee house at 11 a.m. on a Wednesday. And they're all like, oh yeah. And they get up and they go to work.
I feel like you could say that about a lot of shows though. Like, yeah. Anyway,
like, Big Bang Theory or Modern Family.
Life is not lived in a bar, which I guess that actually is pretty good advice.
Yeah. That's solid.
I'll give
like
it that.
How I Met Your Mother.
Give Cheers credit though. They always showed them coming in from work.
Yes, not
Their
going.
evenings were spent in a bar after they worked all day.
Not before like going to operate heavy machinery. Okay, Sean, show that changed your life.
Yeah, sitcom that changed my life is The British Office. Both in style, but also just in how it really kind of changed my personal comedic styling, or I don't know, the way that I exhibited my own personal comedy. I don't know, that sounds stupid, but
no, it makes sense.
Yeah, just the way that I liked to joke around changed after I watched that series, and I love that it was short because I think that we've discussed far too often. These shows go on and on and on and on. And is that a British thing? They just end after a short period of time.
Typically so, yeah.
Yeah, it's no coupling, okay. but yeah, no, I appreciated that. And then obviously the kind of mockumentary style that we had seen in Christopher Guest movies already and everything. But yeah, it really changed the way that I appreciated comedy. And I showed it to anyone and everyone I could. And there's one episode that I showed to everyone that I could, and that's the sensitivity training.
Yep.
I showed it. Anytime I was trying to get somebody hooked on the British Office, I said, this is the episode you have to watch.
One of the greatest episodes of a sitcom ever.
Unbelievable. Yeah. And every time, I mean, from what I remember, maybe I'm just choosing to remember it this way, but every single person that I showed it to loved it. To my face. Then privately they hated it and cursed me and said, don't hang out with that guy again.
If I were willing to put money on like what show like our friend group like in college would quote the most, I feel like it would be the British Office. And I also feel like it might even be everything from that episode.
That episode, yeah.
Like go get the guitar.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Say what you see, Gareth.
Yeah. 2 dogs, bone. Give a dog a bone.
Yeah.
So good. It's so great.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Great pick.
After our last episode, I decided to go back and rewatch it. So I'm currently rewatching it, trying to give David Brent more of a chance.
Have you watched that episode yet?
No, I started watching it maybe 3 days ago. I've only watched the first 2 episodes. Becca doesn't love the British Office. So it's something that I'm going to have to watch slowly, because most of our time spent watching TV now is in the evenings. We're watching something together. So it's sort of anything the other doesn't like is you kind of have to catch it when you can. So It'll be a slow watch, but
where can you stream it right now?
I think I'm watching it on Hulu. No, wait, it's on HBO. It's at HBO Max.
I was about to say, okay.
HBO Max.
I know they changed it recently.
Yeah, which I was happy about, because with HBO Max, there's no commercials, because I've gotten to where I hate commercials.
Agreed.
Which I don't know why. I've dealt with it for most of my life, but now I suddenly hate it.
No, commercials are no good.
I sort of love them, but it's because I haven't watched commercials in so long that I find them entertaining. I don't know.
No.
Entertaining?
Yes. I don't know.
You watch a commercial and you're like, yay!
Sometimes.
That AT&T girl is so quirky.
She doesn't know what's going on.
I'd like to think we've all been so blessed by the British Office, simply because without it, Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant probably wouldn't be as famous and well known, especially in America, as they are. And that's a blessing to all of us. Last year's Golden Globes was the best award show I've ever watched in my entire life. And it was all because Ricky Gervais just basically said a big F you to everyone in Hollywood on stage to their faces. And
Have you ever watched The Extras?
Yes.
His other,
That was the second one.
Yeah. But it was kind of like almost a reference to The Office in a way, like his, I don't know, not really, but the idea of being known for one thing, only one thing in film and TV.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it was kind of interesting, because I do think that series, it was only 2 seasons as well, maybe 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was just curious. I was curious if y'all had seen it or not.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it, but
what's that on?
HBO.
It was on HBO. It should be there on
still
HBO
be,
Max.
yeah.
But yeah.
Have y'all seen? Did y'all see that Stephen Merchant show that was on HBO a few years back? It was about him. I forget what it was called, but it was about him like looking for love.
Yes, I did, and I thought it was really good.
I thought it was really good too. That was a funny show.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah.
Have any of y'all watched? It was, I think, 1 season, maybe 2. The TV show Gallivant. It was a musical sitcom.
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite things Ricky Gervais does. He has a 3 or 4 episode like sort of cameo arc where he plays a character called Xanax the magician. Xanax the magician.
Nice.
And he plays like a therapist, like a magical therapist for Gallivant, and they have like various psychedelic like drug-induced psychedelic dreams and stuff like that. It's really good.
Wow.
It's
Timothy
really funny.
Amundsen's in it. Timothy Amundsen. Don't know who that is.
Who?
Timothy Amundsen. Amundsen.
No.
He's in it too.
Okay.
Is it animated?
No, it was on like
No.
ABC or NBC.
It's like a medieval parody.
It's very much like Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Okay, I do
Yeah.
remember. I
It's
remember
like
seeing
Robin
that
Hood Men
one.
in Tights, but
Not
they
quite
do
as
it-
funny, but very, very
Yes.
along that same vein.
I
in
remember
that
seeing
vein.
that. Okay.
It's really funny.
The Stephen Merchant show you're talking about is Hello Ladies.
Hello, ladies. Yes.
Yes, it was a good show.
Yes.
He's genius. I
Yes.
could watch him in anything.
Yes.
Honestly, I mean, as much as I mean, David Brent. I mean, not David Brent. Ricky Gervais. I think he's hit and miss. Probably based on what he is creating. But Stephen Merchant is somebody. I mean, his role in Jojo Rabbit makes me laugh
Oh yes.
so much. But anyway,
All right, Stacy, show sitcom that changed your life.
So I really thought about changing this because I feel really stupid saying it, especially with the huge conversation we had around this show, but I'm keeping it.
Good.
Yeah, I felt like it was dishonest to change my answers.
It would be. It would be.
But Modern Family but hear me out. So when I was in, I think
Hold
I was
on. Can we pause?
pause, yeah.
I feel like you talked so much shit
I
about
did.
Modern Family
I
the last
did.
podcast.
You did. I felt
did.
so alone.
I did. That's why I'm saying I feel like this is dishonest. Modern Family, the first couple of seasons were really good. Like we can all agree on that. The first couple of seasons were really good. And I think that's when I was in seminary, I'm pretty sure, or it was like late college, early seminary. And it was the first time I'd ever seen like a same-sex couple just do life. And there are all these problematic things with the way that the show portrayed that relationship between Cam and Mitchell. But that was the first time I'd ever seen that, like seeing a same-sex couple like play out and have a family. And it helped me make a lot of like really important decisions at that time because I was going to a very, very conservative Methodist seminary where they were expecting us to like make statements on like LGBTQ inclusion in the church. And they wanted us to be ready to give some sort of like statement about that to all of our interview committees. And that was like the first time I ever was like, oh, like they're just a regular family. Like they're just like we are. So it changed my life in that way where it was like reframing things for me and providing context.
Did you see Modern Family before you saw 6 Feet Under?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, did I?
Well, and I think
Because I'm thinking like that's the same kind of thing where it was like the seeing things like that. And I also watched another movie where it was like, I think Mark Ruffalo was in it maybe, where it was like two moms and then the sperm donor came in. Do you know what I'm talking about?
The kids are all right.
But in any case, like those things were all happening at the same time where I was getting these like glimpses of LGBTQ parents or partners that their lives looked like mine.
Mm-hmm.
Even though these things were problematic they are problematic, but I didn't know enough to know that.
Well, and even between the two, Cam and Mitchell in Modern Family are much more stable than Keith and David are in 6 Feet Under. You know, it's still at times in 6 Feet Under, it definitely portrays still more of the rocky life, like the stereotypical rocky lifestyle
I
of
feel
a
like
gay relationship versus, not to say that's not real, that happens, that exists, but it also exists in the heterosexual world as well. Whereas Cam and Mitchell are consistent, and you see the development of their relationship, even the struggle of for the first 2 or 3 seasons, they're not married because they can't be. They coexist and they cohabitate, and they are each other's significant other, but then they are able to get married. And so you watch that on television develop as well.
okay, but I feel like it's disingenuous to compare the two.
No, I was just saying, like, because you were
Modern
saying,
Family is a sitcom. Like
No,
everything
I was
is stable.
yeah, I was
point
just
of a
saying,
sitcom.
as opposed to you were saying, did you see that earlier? Like, even if you
Yeah.
saw it on 6 Feet, even if you see the relationship exists on 6 Feet Under before you see it on Modern Family, they're two distinctly different relationships being portrayed. Both of them completely respectable and both of them completely genuine in the greater scope of reality.
See, I would say no. I'd say one is more realistic and one is from a sitcom. Like that, I don't know if I, yeah, I don't know.
You don't think it's colored by your
I see
hatred
what
of
you're
Modern
saying.
Family?
No. I literally, I see what you're saying. It's just, I don't know. There's a false ring to any sitcom relationship, and I feel like that's also one of the things that it came under fire for quite a bit. Was like making it like basically like saying like, hey, a gay relationship is the exact same thing as a straight relationship. See, and like a lot of gay people took offense to that idea of like, stop, like you're basically trying to make it look like as easy as a straight relationship. Does that make sense? Because that's the thing is like, yeah, it is more rocky in 6 Feet Under, but I don't think it's because of the two characters. I think it's because of the society that they live in and their reactions to being gay people in society at that time.
But at that
and so
time,
I don't know. I just to compare the two just seems like a.
I think we're saying the same thing in different terms. They're both sort of characters. No,
I don't think we are.
They're both caricatures of themselves because it's using the logic you just used. I could criticize 6 Feet Under by saying, so you think all gay relationships are completely covered in AIDS scares and drug use and inability to connect. And that is one aspect of a gay relationship where I have friends who, one of my good friends said he didn't, a show like Modern Family showing it being as normal and as something that is heteronormative, incorporating homosexual relationship into that is one of the things that gave him the courage to come out. Like seeing that it's not the stereotype of it has to be this scary thing that you fight against. You can coexist in normalcy.
That's the thing is you keep saying normalcy, and that's where I get hung up. The idea that like any relationship is normal, and the idea of like, and which I would say that's not true. No relationships are normal because there's no such thing as normal. And I feel like that's part of the problem when you take a sitcom and try to say like, oh, this is like a really good representation of a relationship, when it's like, well, it's a sitcom. And I feel like a lot of things that sitcoms do are try and turn abnormal things normal in a way that is not helpful.
I hear what you're saying, and I can totally like jump on board like Stacy now. But then like I think I needed that. Like,
yeah, no. I totally understand that. And I understand like Trey's friend. Like I understand those things. I think what I'm getting hung up on is like comparing 6 Feet Under, comparing a relationship in 6 Feet Under to Modern Family. I'm wearing my like critic hat. Sorry. Comparing those two things are, to me, legitimately like apples and oranges. I just don't think they're completely different art forms. And so that's the thing that I'm getting hung up on. And to say that like Modern Family portrays like a realistic look at a relationship. I wouldn't even say that about the straight relationships in that show.
No, I don't know.
They're all caricatures, of course.
I don't know if I said that, but I agree with what you're saying. I think
you can say the same thing about dramas. Like they are caricatures of relationships. Like
I disagree.
The relationship in a drama can be every bit as real as a relationship in a comedy. They can be perceived as
it can be
extreme version.
That's what I'm saying.
Like they both can be.
It's not in Modern Family is my point.
Essentially what you're saying is there's no way Cam and Mitchell's relationship could ever exist in real life. Like it's impossible. And if they have difficulties in the show, they're usually portrayed in a situational comedy situation. But that's to say that a relationship like Cam and Mitchell's, it is impossible in real life, whereas David and Keith's is perfectly logical and realistic.
Okay. Yeah, I just don't see how you can look at that and go, yeah, that's real, man. That's a real.
I didn't say it is. I said they both could be real. Either one could be real. It's to not put sort of a box around what a relationship is and defining it based on that. I'm not
But
saying
you're talking about a sitcom and then saying like, we can't put boxes on relationships, but here's like 30 minutes of like, oh, here's our disruptive thing. And then, oh, but then we're okay in the end because that's how life is. Like, that's my issue is like sitcoms are legitimately like, they do not portray real life in a sense that like 6 Feet Under, especially at the time, was really challenging this idea of like, we're going to put things on screen that you've never seen before because it's representative of real life.
I could take that same logic and apply it to Big Bang Theory, though. Like, those aren't real life nerds. It's supposed to be situational comedy. Like, they're not trying to be real. They're trying to be caricatures. They're trying to explode it more. So why would you dislike that if you know that it's like a farce, I guess?
Because I'm not saying like, man, those nerds, that's really how nerds are. And I think we need to really be aware of that. I
don't think
disagree.
anybody.
I don't think they're trying to say that either. Like,
You're saying that, and I'm disagreeing with you is what my point is.
No, I'm saying that that is like the relationship itself, not the finer nuances of the show, not the like actual plot points of each individual show, but like the relationship of two gay people coexisting in a happy, loving relationship that occasionally have disagreements, but otherwise they exist in a world where they are accepted and loved by their family, by their friends, and the greater nuances. They occasionally face some real life discriminations. I think that is where the heartwarming aspect of it, not the whole show of everything that happens within Modern Family is real and realistic and is always perfect. But Stacey, you can speak to it better because you were the one talking about it. How I take it is Stacey saying that was the first time you saw like a cohabitation of a long-lasting, loving gay couple together in a mutually exclusive, monogamistic relationship, essentially.
Yeah,
I'm not disagreeing with what Stacey's saying.
Yeah, and I think I was watching both shows pretty close to the same time, like that seminary. I didn't watch 6 Feet Under while it was on, but I think in the silliness, I could see myself in the silliness of those characters, of Cam and Mitch, and going like, oh, I could do that. Like, I could be that silly too. Or the situations where you're like, even though they're over the top, you're like, oh, I've had that similar thing happen, or I could see that thing happening to me. And so for the first time, like, they weren't othered in my brain. Because like growing up in conservative evangelical circles, gay people were they were different than me. They didn't have the same kind of life that I do. And so to see them in a sitcom where it's like, they're in this silly situation, I could see myself in that silly situation. You know what I mean? Where they weren't aliens anymore. Like it sounds so terrible, but it humanized this group that the church spent so long othering or making me believe were completely different than who they are.
Yeah.
Not saying that that's how they are, but
I think you said it. That was the first time they weren't othered, because even in previous relationships, they were othered more.
I don't know. I disagree. I think that's the main thing that we're disagreeing with is I think their portrayal in that show is a little heavy. Is quite heavy-handed and caricature-like of like, especially Cam is just,
yeah. And
this is what gay guys are like. And I know a lot of gay guys who like took offense at that. So like, I literally think that what we are disagreeing about is that yes, y'all think Modern Family did a good job. And I think they did not.
No,
That's all it is.
No, I'm not even saying they did a good job. I'm just saying that in that time and where I was,
right? Yeah.
Changed my mind. Right. Now, if I were to watch it as myself today, I may go like, what the hell is that? That's not helpful to anybody. But at that time and who I was, it was something that was eye-opening to me. I actually haven't even gone back and watched it. So I don't even know, like, I don't know where it would land with me or how I would feel about it. I have no idea.
Let me say that here's a good here's something good that I think gets to the point, to like really the point of what I'm trying to make. The conservative Christians that I knew around that time, they loved Modern Family. They were appalled at 6 Feet Under. And that's what I think, like,
Don't you think
again,
that could potentially be a good job though? Don't you think that's working towards softening the edges? Because I'll tell you, when Modern Family came out, I thought gay marriage was wrong. I thought homosexuality was a sin. And it went a long way towards changing, normalizing it to me. Being able to see that on television in a, for better or for worse, a normalized manner. A situation where, when I say normal, I'm not saying normalized in terms of incorporating it into hetero society. I'm saying normal as in you can turn on the TV, and whereas 20 years ago, something like 6 Feet Under was incredibly controversial, as opposed to 10 years ago, you'd have to go to HBO to find something like that, as opposed to 10 years ago, 15 years ago with Will and Grace, you see the beginnings of it. And even then, anytime, when they kissed on Will and Grace, that was a huge ordeal and lots of people rioted. And then you go to 10 years ago from now, 5 years later after Will and Grace, you see Cam and Mitchell in a committed, loving relationship on TV every single weeknight, every single Wednesday night. It's sort of a progression. I agree with what Stacey's saying. Now in time, sure, it's a caricature. It does portray all gay men. It's flamboyant, feminine, over the top sort of thing. But it's a progression of time of bringing us all around.
But my point is, representation is not here for straight people, to make straight people feel better about gay people. That's not the point of representation. No, good representation.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm telling you, I had conversations with gay people at the time about Modern Family that they told me they felt better represented because of it.
Okay. I had the opposite. So
yeah. And it doesn't make either one wrong. I'm just telling you that they're, the same way that some people could hate the Big Bang Theory because how it betrayed nerds, but then some people could potentially like it just because they find it to be a caricature.
I also think you can't really compare nerds and gay people.
I know it's definitely two different extremes of it. I'm just trying to think of like a term to loop it back around. We're not all going to agree on whether the representation is good or not, but that doesn't mean it does only bad. There's good, and then sometimes there's gray area that it could make one person feel good and one person feel bad. And
absolutely, it's all
that doesn't make either one wrong.
Yes, it's all relative. I'm saying from my position, I think it's bad.
I was more along the lines of, I can see where you think it was bad. I was looking for more of an acknowledgement of potential, not even saying you agree, but potential for gray area, that it's not all black and white, good versus bad. I mean, sometimes there's gray.
Of course, yes. But that's what opinions are.
Yeah.
I actually really appreciated that conversation because it helped. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I can speak for anybody else, but it helps me grow. Honestly, that conversation made me a better person. So thank you.
Disagreement.
I think so. I agree.
Disagreement yields growth.
Disagreement's good.
Almost always.
It's good to watch other people disagree. But I refuse to do it.
I don't want any part of it.
I want nothing to do with it.
That is an interesting topic of conversation as well. Obviously, we all know that I enjoy it. I hate watching other people do it. Like, really? If I can't participate, it's not fun.
Yeah. I want to be part of it. I want to disagree with everybody.
The sitcom that surprised me, we've already mentioned it a couple times, and it has turned out to be an incredible show. It's Modern Family. No,
I knew that was coming.
I watched probably the first couple episodes, and I've talked to a lot of people who felt the same way. It is kind of a rough season. It's kind of hard to get into, but once you do, it is endearing. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. And really, the last seasons 4, 5, and 6, they find their stride, and it's just good television, and it's Schitt's Creek. I just the first time I watched it, a lot of people recommended it. I watched the first 2 episodes. I was like, this is dumb. This isn't even going to be funny. These Canadians don't know comedy. And I just love Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara. I mean, they're brilliant. They're hilarious. And I just thought this just isn't that funny. It's just not very good. And, you know, even Dan Levy will now talk about the first season was they were just trying to figure out what the hell they were doing. And Dan Levy was pretty new to all of it, you know, and didn't really feel like he had his feet underneath him, but they found their stride. And I'm glad that they were given a couple more chances because they did. And the last half of that show is just fantastic. And it surprised me because when I gave it a second chance, it was because so many people had told me. I didn't rewatch it again until season 4 had finished. And so many people told me how good it had become that I decided to really honestly struggle watch season 1. And even the couple of times I've gone back, season 1 is still not the easiest to watch, but it's a great show. And I'm really, really glad to see that show finally getting some of the credit. Cause I thought, and again, the earlier season's not so great, but I thought they were kind of robbed after season 5. I thought season 5 was really, really great television and they didn't win any awards. They got no real recognition. So I'm glad to see them getting some with season 6, which was also a fantastic season.
I don't know if I should say anything. I'm waiting for you to say something, Michael.
Why?
I don't know.
I have not seen the show. I don't have a.
Are you serious?
Yeah. We talked.
Don't
about
do that.
this.
Don't say stuff like that to him. Don't shame him into this.
To be fair, I'm this close to never watching it.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Do not do that. Don't do that to him. You
I
can't.
know. I get that.
Why? I'm curious.
Because Stacy's been like going on and on about it on the text, and so I'm just like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Michael does this thing that if I like something a lot, you should do it. Yes. If I tell him
It's not just you. It's not just you.
That's not true.
I do it too. I really do. It's the whole I call it the Firefly thing because everybody tells me to watch Firefly and I'm like, I'm not watching that. And the truth is I would enjoy it, but stupid, stubborn.
It's not. So here's the thing. It's not that it's like, oh gosh, I wish people would stop telling me to watch this. It's more like it's more like, especially you, Stacy, like you're the way you talk about it as if it is like lately, especially is that it is going to cure skin rashes that I may have if I watch it. And like, so I know that so it's like the more and more people talk about something and the more you hear them talk about something, the more it gets built up. And then I'm just afraid like that I'm just not, that it's not going to meet my expectations. And then I don't want to be the guy who like doesn't like the thing that everybody loves. And so then it just becomes like work.
Here you go.
So it's
Season 1.
It's not spite. It's just, and I do. I plan on watching it, but lately Stacy has really stretched that.
I didn't know. If I would have known that you didn't watch it, I would have not done that.
I thought we talked about that last week.
No, you were giving like all these fun facts about Schitt's Creek that I just assumed that you had seen it.
What? Fun facts? I don't know any fun facts
Like,
about Schitt's Creek.
They're Canadian, which
I didn't know.
That's not a
that they were
fun fact,
Canadian.
and I'm pretty sure I said that.
Yeah, I
I
didn't
think
know
that's
they were
general
Canadian.
knowledge.
sorry.
I'm actually kind of surprised you didn't know that.
They were
Well,
I knew
I
that
didn't
before I watched it.
Yeah, I didn't know.
they were produced by the Canadian Broadcasting
Right.
Corporation.
Didn't know.
I don't acknowledge these borders in our lives.
What? Yeah.
Yeah, Michael, I really did not know, or else I would not have done that because I know that you don't like to have that let down. I would not have hyped it so much. I really thought that you'd seen it. I'm so sorry.
You don't
I
have to
personally loved
apologize.
that you didn't know they were Canadian.
I feel
love
really bad because I just didn't know. I would be like, yeah, that's a cool show.
You should not feel bad. That's certainly, you should not feel bad.
You should feel terrible.
No, you shouldn't.
I do. 'Cause I really would have like I would have just been like, it's a show.
I disagree with Michael. You should feel bad.
Well, then I wouldn't. Then I'd be like, well, Stacy didn't like it very much, so should I? I mean, should I even bother? You know, like,
No,
Just
what's
say-
that movie?
just say what you feel, Stacy. It's fine. You can't control my reaction to things. Okay, can't do it. So don't try.
There's
Challenge
that
accepted.
movie.
I'll be the judge of that. Yeah.
No,
There's a movie, Michael, that what was that movie that you
Human
loved?
Centipede.
No. What's that movie that you loved and I thought was just awful? And
La
I
La
hate-
Land.
Yeah, La La Land. See?
Yeah. What
We
about
can
it?
disagree.
You don't like La La Land?
I know we can disagree. That's normal. That's I'm this human being and you're a different human being.
I
This
know.
is TV shows of your life, sitcoms of your life. But
I would
definitely want to revisit how you could possibly dislike La La Land.
La La Land
Okay,
is
we'll talk about it.
wonderful.
But
It's a
I would
wonderful movie.
never have
sobbed
no.
in the theater,
Or-
sitting next to Becca while we weren't even hadn't been dating that long.
So good.
Openly
Or
wept. But
Sean,
next
are
to
you okay, Sean? This
Such a
is
good-
getting
such a
too
good
much. Do you
movie.
want me to make you some chamomile tea?
I don't like this.
So
Schitt's
so
Creek is a show that
is
surprised
Schitt's Creek good?
That's
It's
what I
fine.
was gonna say.
Don't do
So,
this. Don't do that.
season
Don't ask
one-
that
Whatever.
question.
Listen,
Don't ask that
season
question.
one, a family of 4 loses all their money and moves to a crappy town in rural nowhere.
I've
Now,
actually
you're caught up. Start on season 2.
I've seen the first episode and I was like, maybe.
Oh, so you've
I
seen the
also-
first episode.
Yes,
so
I
now
have
You've
skip
got to
to-
push through.
So now skip to season 2.
Yeah. I know people that have said, like, I know the premise. I've seen the first episode. I don't want to see another show like this. I don't want to see another premise like this, where it's like the rich people lose
Doc
everything,
Hollywood.
but they get it back and they gain, they, somehow find their way. I know people that are turned off immediately by the premise and by the first episode, or honestly season, really. But truly, I'm not going to try to sell it, Michael. You can't get me to try to sell it.
I like the classic Doc Hollywood premise. I'm a fan.
I love Doc Hollywood.
You know what? Watch it or don't. Do what you want.
I'm gonna.
Okay, good.
Don't watch it, Michael.
No, I mean I'm gonna do what I want. That's
Don't watch it.
for sure gonna happen.
I
You
swear
better
the
not
next
watch
time I get excited about something, I'm gonna be like, okay, who has seen this? Who is also excited about this?
I know
And
that I have voiced
remember-
that I have not seen Schitt's Creek in our
Yes.
group. I know that
I
I've done
remember
that.
that happening.
I knew that
can't
Michael
remember-
had not seen it.
I can't remember everything Michael says.
Why? He expects that of us. He
Why?
expects that of all of us.
We have it recorded.
I don't have a Lisa Frank journal. Write down his stuff.
I'm keeping a note.
Sitcom that surprised me. You're the Worst. This is a sitcom that was on FX, and the reason it surprised me, I kind of fell into watching the first episode because I remember when it came out, the trailer for it. I remember seeing and thinking to myself, I've seen this a million times and I don't need any more of it. And basically, what that is just another sitcom about selfish assholes, which is almost a genre in and of itself now. Which sometimes can be like really funny, like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. But I was just like, okay, so it's a show that's about kind of like a romantic show, but at the same time, like everybody's an asshole. But then I fell into watching the first episode, and I was like, okay, this is kind of interesting at least. And then I kept watching it, and then it got funnier and funnier and funnier. And the thing that really surprised me about it was how dramatic it ends up actually being. The show does a really good tightrope walk of being equally hilarious, and then when you're not expecting it, almost heartbreaking. And some of the things that it explores, and a lot of it just, without giving anything away, it just it explores depression, it explores PTSD, like it explores like a lot of like real hard stuff that you usually do not see explored in a sitcom. Basically, it's yes, it is a show about assholes, but then it like delves into like, why are you an asshole, right? What broke you and like what made you this way, and then like really like bringing that to the forefront. One of the only shows that I can think about that on a pretty consistent basis, especially nearer to the end, I would be laughing hysterically, and Jenny is a huge fan as well, and we would always watch together, but we would be laughing hysterically and then like almost crying. Like it's just, they're just having such meaningful moments that come out of nowhere. And again, it's one of those things that builds up those meaningful moments so that when those meaningful moments happen, there's like an extra punch to them because they're few and far between in the show, if that makes sense. I cannot recommend it enough. I literally don't know anyone who has seen it other than Jenny. It's really funny. It has great performers. Aya Cash is in it. She's really funny. I forget the main guy's name. He's British, but he is so funny. It's a great show, and you should watch You're the Worst. And I'm pretty sure none of you have seen it.
I've never.
Yeah.
I felt the same way where it was like, this looks stupid. Like I've seen this before and I don't want to, but I really like that intensity of laughing really hard. And then in the next 10 seconds, you're crying. Like that's very appealing to me in a show.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard you ring this bell before, and I've not checked it out at all, but it was actually on my list, my short list of shows that I should have seen.
I've seen one episode. I was flipping the channels and I came across it, but it was sort of on in the background. I don't remember. When you first said it, I was thinking of I'm Sorry with Andrea Savage, which is also an excellent show. That's the first thing that clicked in my mind, but I was like, no, wait, that's called I'm Sorry. But I have seen an episode. I just don't remember much of it, but it was not from the beginning or anything. It was just an episode on TV. So it could have been in any number of seasons, and I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, it's one of those shows that you kind of have to start at the beginning and go through because it really builds on the relationships in the show. So both in terms of the comedy and the drama in it.
I do remember the episode I watched was the brunette character. Mm-hmm. The brunette female was like, it was an episode about her balancing home work life, I think. And I was like, I think I've told you, Becca and I are currently rewatching Parenthood. And it was around the same time that Julia Braverman is doing that on Parenthood. So I was thinking, this has been done. But
this is a thing.
Yeah, this is a thing. But I did think there were funny moments, and I'd love to give it a try.
In the show, Aya Cash, she's a kind of a real low-level manager for musical acts. And she doesn't manage him, but because of that, like for different reasons, Ben Folds will show up just as himself. And he's bizarre. Like he plays himself as the weirdest mother effer. And he's really funny in it. And he's basically a recurring character, just Ben Folds as himself. And it's really funny.
This is how you got me to put it on my list. That's what I remember. I don't remember much of what you've said about the show except Ben Folds, because I adore Ben Folds.
That's definitely a plus for it.
Yeah, and you said that, and I said I remember that. I need to put it on my list of shows that I should have seen because of him. And
he's great.
But I think his name is Ben Folds the Fifth. He's Ben Folds the Fifth.
No, Trey, that's a band that he had. He was one of 5 people in that band. And
I think it's a little ridiculous to think there were 5 Ben Folds, Sean.
Legend
he was clearly
okay. God bless it. He's amazing though. Ben Folds is amazing.
Yeah. Have y'all seen the video of him basically writing a symphony on the spot?
Yes.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. I hate it. It
is ridiculous.
I hate him.
His music videos are awesome. Have you ever watched any of his music videos? There's one that's like a piano. It's like prepared piano. And he's got like 10 pianos and everybody's doing something different on them. One person's doing almost like a hammered dulcimer thing. And one person's just wiping along. Anyway, Ben Folds is my sitcom that you love.
You're the worst. You said it's on FX. Is it on anything else streaming?
I don't know.
I can look it up. You don't.
I'll look it up for you right now. As Sean,
if only there were the internet.
As Sean goes into Sean, the sitcom that surprised you.
Yes, sitcom that surprised me is Schitt's Creek. That is why I did not talk about it while Trey. Yeah. So
I think this is the first time someone's repeated something of mine. I feel so honored.
You're the worst is on Hulu, by the way.
Ooh, okay, good to know. Hulu. I think, really, it was the hype. I watched it after all of their big, like they're sweeping the Golden Globes. I saw that and I go, okay, well, I love Eugene Levy. I guess I'll watch it. And so it was after that. I tend to not watch things that a ton of people keep telling me to watch as well. And a lot of people that I see like at work and really just at work, they kept telling me to watch it and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. And they kept doing inside jokes and I was like, I hate this. But then, yeah, it was honestly, I think it was after the Golden Globes. I was like, okay, they look cool. I guess I'll watch it. And I binged the entire series. Trey's right. Get past season 1. And in it, not that season 1's terrible, but certainly you get the gist and it just gets better and better. Yeah. Laugh, cry. And then you get through the entire series and then watch the special kind of making of the last season special that's on Netflix and even more laugh crying. But I fell in love with Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara through Christopher Guest movies. And so that was a big selling point for me. And certainly Catherine O'Hara is probably the best or second best character on that entire series. She's unbelievable.
She's great.
She's so good.
She is one of the most unheralded
she really is
comedic geniuses.
Yes.
Because everybody, if you bring her up, and I think thankfully this has probably changed now, and now probably most people know her from Schitt's Creek. But before that, I feel like everybody just knew her from Home Alone.
Yeah.
Where she does not have a lot to do in that movie.
No.
And she's not funny at all.
No, she's not funny.
No. So yeah, she is so good.
So really, go ahead. Sorry.
And, that's just, I was going to echo the same thing. That's one of my favorite things about Schitt's Creek is Catherine O'Hara is a brilliant comedian and she's finally getting some well-deserved recognition. She's about to win all 5 of like the major performing awards for Schitt's Creek. And I mean,
an EGOT.
And all of the 5 major performing actor TV awards. You kind of have to like add another qualifier on there just to make it more.
That's
more
not
real.
that exciting, Trey.
Wait, what? Explain.
The Emmy, the SAG, Golden
Globes, I
Globes,
see what you're saying. Okay.
Critics' Choice, and then another one. The other one I had never heard of, but apparently those are the 5 like major TV.
Nickelodeon Kids
Choice.
The Grand Slam.
But
television.
Basically, she's won the Emmy and the Golden Globe. She's expected to win the SAG.
She went for the cycle.
So it just a lot of the excitement is, you're right. Dan Levy's writing developed so much over the series, and he's brilliant. But I can't imagine Moira not being played by Catherine O'Hara.
And that's all her.
Yes.
That's all her.
Yeah.
She came up with all of that.
Brilliant.
Yeah, she's like, I think I'll play her with an accent.
Yes.
And it's the most absurd thing you've ever heard in your life. But it's like the way she says things are just a little bit off.
Yeah.
Where it's so funny.
That is her. And again, I've not watched the show, but that is her genius. That is Catherine O'Hara's genius.
Yes.
Is she will do the smallest of things to make something so funny. And
Yes.
she she's psychic and like knows what is just going to make someone laugh that is not like overtly funny, but it's so subtle that it's hilarious.
Yes.
That as a performer, she's so good.
Yeah, and then she told the costume designer, "Bring me all of your costumes." She's like, "Give me every costume you have. I'm going to wear a different one in every episode."
Complete absurdity with the wardrobe.
It's ridiculous.
But she says there's like a line it's like instead of like I don't need your 2 cents, she's like I don't need your twin pennies. And it's like that is just so hilarious. And there's no reason it should be, but it is. And so the delivery is just so phenomenal.
I was gonna say, so much of it is just her delivery. She says lines that are not funny,
Right.
but she says it in such a way that you can't help but laugh.
But it's those rewind moments where it's like, what the hell did she just say?
Yeah.
And Michael, the reason I know this is not helpful at all, but I honestly had to pull out a thesaurus at some points. Not really, but like I had to look up some of the words that she used because they were so like, I don't even know what the word is. Like she is using this.
It's very wide. It's very deep.
It's very smart. Where I think like you appreciate that kind of humor where she uses this obscure word and it's so smart that it's hilarious.
Okay, Sean's right.
Well,
Sean's onto something. You're right, Sean. There is something about like telling me to watch something that I'm just like, screw you. I'm not going to watch it.
No, I'm not saying you should. I'm saying you would like that. You would appreciate that writing because you are so well read and have such an extensive vocabulary.
Let it go, Stacy. Let it go.
Do that.
Let it go.
Don't do that.
I didn't need to look
tell
up the
somebody
words.
how much they'll appreciate something. Trust me, you're the kind of person who will love this. Is a very that's
Is that
I don't
what
know.
it sounds like?
That's what Stacy
No.
tells all her gay friends about Modern Family.
That
No, it's not.
I didn't need a dictionary or a thesaurus. I will say there were many times I had to rely on the captions to understand the words that she was saying.
That's
because
true.
she delivered them in such a way that it was brilliant.
The wine commercial episode. It's one of my absolute favorites because of the different ways she says. Honestly, just because of the different ways she says the guy's name. That alone is absolutely amazing.
Really, what it boils down to is that show is probably nothing without her. I mean, it is a good show probably without her. It is not great without her.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
And I like, not that Eugene Levy plays like outlandish characters previously, but both of them in most things that they do kind of play characters typically, goofy people, weird people. But he is so the straight man in this. He is just so just absolute straight man, normal, not even like American Pie dad, goofy, like fumbling sort of, weird guy. Like he's just such a straight-laced, forward-thinking guy. And it just parallels Moira so well.
He's surprisingly low key and like surprisingly aware. Like he's more aware than anything else I think I've seen him in.
That's interesting because that's a kind of reversal of what you would usually do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they do it so well. They work so well together.
And that's
their
very
chemistry is amazing.
Yeah, it really is.
That's very giving of Eugene Levy to be like, you take the funny bits and I'll be the straight guy, but yes, they work incredibly well. I mean, you could basically call them a comedy team at this point. All the Christopher Guest movies that they've done together and 2 of them, they're married in them. So like they're not married in one of them, but they're a couple.
That's the thing. I've never seen those. Like I'm the person that only knew her as the Home Alone lady. Like I didn't know.
You got to go back and watch Best in Show.
Waiting for Guffman, Best in Show.
I didn't
Mighty
know
Wind.
about Waiting in Guffman, but I knew her as Home Alone. But my love of her was born in Best in Show. I mean, just turn on Comedy Central, leave it on for a week, and it's going to come on at least twice.
It is. That was the first Christopher Guest movie I saw.
Yeah.
Actually, and then Spinal Tap. But Michael made me watch Waiting for Guffman, and that I think that sealed it.
I still need to watch that.
It's a
Mighty Wind is also.
I've never seen A Mighty Wind.
I've not seen it.
Hey, Michael, I will watch all of those movies that you.
No, don't bargain. Shush.
I wasn't going to. I'm just saying I'm going to watch those. Just throwing that out there.
I don't care. that's a universe bargain. Like, I'm throwing this out to the universe.
Yeah.
Let's see what you do with it, Michael. That's still a bargain.
It was an unstated bargain.
It did seem very like defiant.
Yeah.
Hey, Michael, I'm going to watch those. Just putting it out there.
Here's
Balls in your court, Michael.
This is the truth of it.
Not for any reason.
I'm going to tell the truth right now. I do the same thing that Michael does all the time, honestly. But when Michael says you should watch this, I typically do because I typically like it. And I think the only thing that I don't like
you don't do
La La
what
Land.
Michael does.
No, like La La Land's the only thing that Michael's likes that I don't. But everything else I like. Oh, and Human Centipede, I haven't.
I don't. To be fair, I don't like Human Centipede.
I'd like
Whatever.
to think
Michael.
that's a bit.
You have gone on record
Whatever.
as saying that's sitcom that you love.
I have
Heard
seen
you
Human
say it.
Centipede. I do not like Human Centipede.
You gift it to your friends in distress.
It is a
We know that it's your favorite.
it is heartwarming. I'll say that. It's a little too romantic for me.
Human Centipede?
Yeah.
I've only seen clips.
It's kind of a chick flick.
Not because we haven't talked about Schitt's Creek enough. One further thing along a point Michael made. I think that's another thing that makes the show work so well is Eugene Levy is so giving, both in terms of letting Catherine O'Hara take the comedic moments, I'll be the straight man, but also you can see it as in his character in the show, but also him actually as a dad in real life, how much he embraces Dan's vision for the show and letting Dan really take the reins and run with it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because Dan has talked about how really the only reason they got the show in the first place was because Catherine O'Hara and Eugene Levy were on board. And that's really probably the only thing that kept it going after the first season. But really, it was Eugene believing in Dan and his vision of what it could become. So there's a lot of Eugene Levy giving in this sitcom. And that's what makes it work so well.
And they both created it, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't realize that Twyla is his daughter.
I didn't realize that either until after I saw the show.
Yeah. Which is like, how cool would that be to be able to do that with your family
my
or to
gosh.
be a family where that was like something you'd want to do?
Yeah. So in the show, Dan and Eugene also play father and son as well.
Yeah.
But it's a great chemistry amongst all four of them.
And Twyla Paris. Twyla Paris is also
Twyla Paris. Yes.
is Eugene Levy's daughter, which I did not know that.
No.
What's the actress's name
crazy.
that plays the sister and daughter? Annie
something with finesse or an H.
Murph.
Leibowitz.
Can't remember.
She's amazing. The voice that she does for Alexis, like I just assumed
Alexis,
that's
that's
just the
the
way she
character, yeah.
talked. Like I didn't realize that she was in that character. Like that's not who.
Yeah,
I just assumed she spoke like that, but she was doing a voice.
She was.
That was really interesting.
Catherine O'Hara also doesn't talk like Moira.
She was acting.
No, but it's such a distinct kind of voice
Yeah.
that I thought that's really how she spoke that way.
That's what Canadian Valley girls sound like. Stacey, what's the sitcom that surprised you?
Schitt's Creek.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Another three for.
Well,
Or wait.
Yeah, that's only
Yeah.
the second one.
yeah.
Last time I was on the outside, so I feel so good.
It was when I had my last ankle surgery where I was like trying to figure out what to watch because I had to stay in bed for so long. And one of my friends had suggested Schitt's Creek, and I was like, that just looks so stupid. And I really don't like the actor that plays Roland. What's his name? He just
Yeah.
And I honestly like he's so cringy to me that even in the show when it's his turn, even though I really like the show, I cannot stand that man. Like
Really?
it's just
Actually agree.
so cringy. I mean, he's probably a great man, but like I can't stand the character that he plays or the way he plays it. It's just gross.
But imagine the show without him.
I think honestly, I can think of other people that would be better in that role. I don't like him.
He's in Scary Movie too, and
Yes,
the
and
only
he plays
funny
him-
part.
It's a very similar character. he
Take
plays.
my strong hand. Is that guy?
Yes. He plays a similar character, and I think it's funny. I enjoy him in that role.
It's too cringy for me. I cannot I just can't deal with it. But so that's why I didn't want to watch it. And then I watched the first episode and I was like, I don't really like this. And then I got hooked, but I stopped watching it in like season 3 or something because I didn't want the show to end. So I just pretended like it was never going to end and never watched the ending until I guess this past week where
it was definitely this past week.
I'll say I didn't know.
You saw it. Sorry.
I'm excited about that. I didn't know there was a special, so I look forward to watching that.
Oh yeah, yeah,
it's good. Yeah, I'm sorry that I live texted every episode.
I've seen the special. I haven't seen the show.
I can't understand how you would see the special and not go watch the show.
Why would you do that?
If I watched the special first, I would go back and watch the show.
I'm kidding. I've not seen the special.
I know that. I know that.
Talking to Stacy.
I'm trying to say that your joke is stupid.
Wouldn't it be funny? Wouldn't it be funny if I secretly have seen all of Schitt's Creek and I'm just
this is
like
just a bit you're doing.
I'm just pretending, yeah.
Now
Honestly,
Or even better, you're pretending like you've not seen it, but secretly it's your favorite sitcom of all time, and you're just toying with us the whole time.
Because I said I know nothing about it, but then I keep like answering questions about it.
The last thing that I wanted to say about Schitt's Creek is when I was watching the extras thing, I don't remember which actress brought it up, but she was basically saying that one of the things about Schitt's Creek that's different than other shows is there wasn't this like this terrible thing that happened, and that's how they explain these like LGBTQ characters. It was like they were just living their life, and it was just like these situations. Whereas like other shows, it's more of an apology for being who you are. And part of that was having Dan Levy be like, he's writing, like he's in the room where this is being created. And so he's having this voice that normally isn't present. So instead of like writing these traumatizing storylines, it's just like coming from more of an authentic place. And so like their whole relationship, instead of being an apology for being gay, it's like they're just having life.
I think I could be wrong, but I feel like I read he's not gay. They say in the show he's polyamorous, and I think he's the first polyamorous character like on TV ever. Like
I guess when I'm saying gay, I mean like queer.
No, I know what you meant. I was just saying like that's a profound thing. Just the representation of polyamorous is a thing. It doesn't have to be black or white. There's a lot of degrees to the spectrum.
But that's honestly, not what that's not the right word though, is it? Polyamorous is when you have more than one partner.
Is pansexual?
Pansexual. That's
oh yes, I'm sorry. You're right. Yes, I'm sorry.
But again, like I think that kind of representation is really important to have, where you're not offering an apology, you're not offering drama because you are LGBTQ. It's just who the character is. There's no apology for it. There's no like backstory for it. And I think that's a really powerful part of the show.
That might be an easier thing to do responsibly because there's not a lot of baggage attached to polyamory or pansexuality, things like that. There's not specific stereotypes attached to that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And he is very like feminine at points, but he is also very masculine. Like you've got this like gender fluidity in the character that I think is done in a really, really brilliant sort of way.
It's responsible. He does it in a responsible way.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. Definitely watch that making of the last season, because they go into great detail and they explain how that has impacted so many. And so definitely, I won't go further because I honestly think that's part of the series. If you watch the series, you have to watch that episode, that special.
Yeah, and when you watch it, like as a parent, you see the parents in the show reacting very positively to their kids. Like you don't have that cliche storyline of like the kid comes out and the mom freaks out and loses it, and then by the end she's okay, but she's still having like this rough time. You don't have that narrative in the show. And like as a person that works with LGBTQ youth and kids, I think that will be an important thing for them to see.
Yeah.
That it doesn't always turn out bad. And not only them, but their parents to have that solidarity of like, oh, look, this is an example of what, like, they're just like us. I don't know. That kind of Me Too kind of thing is happening that I think can be really beautiful.
Yeah. And it's not just
a show. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say in that, I think in that light, it's not just a show of representation. It's potentially a show of healing. Like, I mean, I think that's the further kind of step that it could potentially take for someone who is seeing it with potentially with that perspective. Is a show of healing and not just representation, but of something that truly affirms who they are.
Yeah. Well, and like I said earlier, you know, that when we're talking about these marginalized groups, like literal lives are on the line. Like, yeah, this show is funny as hell, but also like literal lives are on the line here. They need to have representation. It matters. It really, really matters.
Man, we should really get some Schitt's Creek sponsorship on this podcast.
I'm done talking about Schitt's Creek now.
Oh, it's not you. I mean, Sean and I also, I mean, it's a brilliantly funny, but also needed and important voiced show.
Yeah.
And based on this question alone, surprisingly so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Surprisingly effective.
There is no way the show is going to live up
I know.
to the expectations with which y'all have set it up.
So sorry.
Who knows? Maybe it'll surprise you.
Stop it. You made it worse. You just made it worse.
That is. Yeah.
No, yeah, that did make it
Now
worse,
I can't be surprised by it.
Yeah.
Well, you might hate it.
I doubt I'll hate it.
Maybe that's a surprise. It's awful.
Surprise.
I don't think you'll think that. I do understand what you're saying.
Yeah, me too.
If the three of you had seen it and built it up the way that we have done, I don't think it could possibly live up, especially based off that first.
It's just so good. So good.
I don't think anyone did that.
Stacy like got this close.
I'm sorry. I thought you would.
It's needed. Like her she went down like 5 octaves.
Because this is one of those.
I can't go down that one.
This is one of those shows
I'm just
that
giving you a hard time.
I get really pastory about, just because I am working with these kids and I see the world that I grew up in. You know, this was super conservative. There's absolutely no way that any of my babies would have made it. Like, they just wouldn't. They wouldn't have made it in the world that we grew up in.
Well,
but there's this potentiality that I see. I see shows like Schitt's Creek and I'm like, oh, they're going to be okay. Like, they have a supportive community. It just gives me hope that it's different than how we grew up. I'm putting a lot on this show.
I feel like we all are. Maybe
I've been working
maybe
with
we
these
move on from
kids.
Schitt's Creek.
Yeah,
I've been working with
Stacy has literally now said that Schitt's Creek is going to solve all homophobia in the world.
I didn't quite feel that way when I finished it, quite like Stacy does.
Because I have a lot of feelings and I don't know when to stop.
Why did you talk like that?
Now.
That was so uncomfortable.
That was my way of whispering to Michael, like,
Okay, I'm done.
Don't do it again.
No, y'all can't.
Over dramatic.
Please don't do it.
Y'all can't hear Trey. He's whispering to me.
So sorry.
It's just a really good show.
Hey man,
Hey, stop talking like that.
Trey, do you want to go to Burger King later?
Everybody stop talking like that.
I'm not gonna lie. It's funny you say that. I don't care anything about Burger King. I had this wild craving for Burger King last night.
Weird.
It was weird and wild, and it's just funny you say that. Anyway, that's not important. The sitcom that is my guilty pleasure. I don't have a sitcom that's my guilty pleasure, really. I watch what I like. I thought about Righteous Gemstones. That was my first thought. It's a brilliant show. I love it so much. I think Danny McBride is so funny. John Goodman's so funny. But then I was like, but I don't feel bad about watching that. And my initial response was, I feel bad because I'm in ministry. But it's also not really making fun of ministry. It's making fun of televangelists and their money grubbing. And Danny McBride, I listened to an interview with Danny McBride, and he was talking about that, how it's like, he was raised Baptist, and he has his thoughts about the church, but they're not trying to make fun of the church. Anyway, my answer is not Righteous Gemstones. So then I just went back to my roots. As a child, there was one TV show that I used to beg my mom to let me stay up and watch. It came on at 9 and 9:30. And I wanted to watch it every single night. And it's the weirdest thing for a child to like, please, mom, please don't make me go to bed. I really, really want to watch Newhart. Newhart is, and it has stood the test of time. It is better. It is the Bob Newhart's second show after the Bob Newhart show, which is great. But Newhart vastly is superior. I really legitimately believe it is one of the best well-written comedic timing sitcoms that has ever been created. Bob Newhart is brilliant in it. The whole concept of him and his wife moving out and just buying this rural Vermont inn and running it with these weird cast of characters. I mean, it's
Never been done before.
Yeah, never been done before. It's
Fish out of water.
It's so funny. It's refreshing. It's comedic in a way that doesn't have to be, or at least for its time, was not controversial or groundbreaking. It was just a funny, lighthearted show.
You should not feel guilty about that in the least.
Yeah, I don't. It was just the roots of it being like the guilty pleasure of staying up. Ooh, like the guilt of, I get to stay up late sort of thing,
Newhart,
I went very abstract with this question.
Newhart is a great show. Was a very, very funny and like really witty show. And yeah, Bob Newhart is like one of those comedic legends, and he's a legend like amongst like comedians that has just gone down in the public consciousness. Like people just don't know who he is anymore, which is understandable. I mean, he hasn't done anything. I think he's just enjoying retirement, but he was one of the greats. I mean, just truly one of the greats. And he's still funny. Like I heard him he was on Conan O'Brien's podcast, and man, like he's still funny. Just that dry sense of humor.
He just countered. And I think Bob Hope is brilliant and funny. I don't want to take anything away from Bob Hope. It was just so polar the opposite. Bob Hope was so big and larger than life and slapstick. And then you had just Bob Newhart, which was just this small, tiny, understated witticism of humor. And it's just, you're right. I think it's most of the people I talk to nowadays who know him think of him as Papa Elf. And they don't even realize.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
They don't even realize he's Papa Elf. I'm like, Bob Newhart. And they're like, who's that? I'm like, have you seen Elf? He's Papa Elf. And they're like, oh yeah, he's a cute little funny man. I was like, well, no, he's one of the greatest comedians of the last 50 years, probably.
He shows up on Big Bang Theory too, doesn't he?
He does a couple times.
Oh, wow,
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
But we don't have to talk about that.
Also, Newhart, of course, has one of the greatest final episodes of any sitcom ever.
Yes.
As well.
It ends beautifully.
The whole series was a dream
Right.
Yeah.
from his character from the Bob Newhart show.
Yes.
And it has
I
been
was-
used in a bit in TV and movies since.
I was married to this beautiful blonde, and yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
That's it. That is genius. And yes, it's been done a million times since, like variations of that, but like not at the time. Like at the time, from what I understand, like that's why it's considered so great. It's just because that just like blew people's mind, especially in a time where like meta wasn't even a word. I mean, it was, but like nobody talked about, storytelling in meta terms.
It wasn't like Community where they say meta every other episode.
Right, where it's basically a show about being meta. But yeah, like that just kind of blew people's minds at the time of just like, did they just do that? Can you do that? Is that allowed? Yeah.
Yes, and it's brilliant. And then there's Larry and his brother Daryl and his other brother
His
Daryl.
other brother
Daryl.
Daryl.
Yeah.
Which never got old.
I mean, I don't know if you're being serious or not, but I never
that-
thought it got old.
No,
I
that
always
never
thought it
gets
was so
old.
funny.
Just the dry way of saying it. Yeah. Never gets old. My guilty pleasure is Wings. I briefly
You don't have to be guilty about that either.
I have gone back and watched it many times.
Oh, I haven't.
It's not great. I would never suggest anyone go watch it just blind. It's more of a comfort show for me. I considered putting it on show that I can watch over and over again, just because it's one of those shows that I just kind of grew up on, and for whatever reason, there's a part of me who thinks that there's a possibility that what I really latched onto as a kid was kind of the subliminal noise of airplanes taking off and landing in the background, and that soothed me, because I have noticed if I ever go back and watch it now, I always hear that, and I always it's like Pavlov's dog. Like I swear to God, it releases endorphins. And I can't quite understand why, but it does. Yeah. Wings is my guilty pleasure. I considered putting news radio in this slot, but I cannot for the life of me call that guilty, because I think news radio is tremendously good. So I didn't put news radio in here, but I put Wings. And there's not much to say about Wings, honestly. It's basically a knockoff of Cheers set in a airport, a small
municipal airport.
Municipal.
Not even
airport.
municipal. It's like there's two planes. There's two airlines each that own one plane.
Yeah.
I have
Roy has more than one plane.
Oh, he has more than one.
He has a fleet of like 4, I think.
Yeah,
a fleet of 4.
A fleet of 4.
Yeah, they joke about that, but yeah, the Hackett brothers, they only have the one.
Y'all, we laugh, but I mean, seriously, the first time I walked in the Mobile airport, I was like, "Oh my God, I'm on the set of Wings right now. This is Wings right here."
I want to stay.
I've not gone back and rewatched it, but I have very fond memories of watching it as a younger person, and I always loved it. And I wish I had known then how much I would grow up to cherish Tony Shalhoub.
Tony Shalhoub is so good.
Tim Daly, Steven Weber,
Antonio Scarpacci.
Yes. I think it's a brilliantly funny show. And even going so far as I said Cheers was overrated, but I still like it. I still think it's a brilliant show. But Sean and we mentioned one of the greatest sitcom theme songs ever. Same thing with Wings. It's a Schubert piano sonata and it sounds so crazy, but it's just, I guess, along the same lines of what you say. I don't really feel soothed by the sound of planes landing, but really, I don't know if it's based on my love for Wings growing up, but every time I've ever heard that Schubert piano sonata, or sometimes I even just play it's very soothing, it's very relaxing, it's very comforting, and it's become one of my favorite classical pieces. And I originally discovered it through Wings, through it being the opening credit song. A lot of Cheers, Frasier, Wings crossover as well.
Yeah,
which
they take
lends
place
itself
in the same universe.
Yeah.
And I think, Cliff and Norm appear. Frasier and Lilith appear. Yeah. And I think that's it. Yes, I'm pretty sure that's it.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know that. That's awesome.
They cross over into Wings, and I feel like Tony Shalhoub, or not Tony Shalhoub, who's the mechanic? Lowell, I think, appears in Cheers at one point. Wings and Frasier never cross over, but there's definitely Frasier and Cheers crossing over into Wings.
Which Lowell, by the way, Thomas Hayden Church also, like, that's how he got his start.
Yeah. It's a great show. I'll have to go back and watch and see if.
Yeah, I don't think it holds up. Yeah. But again, like I've said, I've watched it all the way through probably 4 or 5 times, because again, it's just one of those things that I'll throw on, like, while I'm working on something else. I don't know, because I will say this: there are some times where I would pause it, and I would go get Jenny, and I'd bring her in, and I'd say, "Watch this part. It's funny. I swear to you, it's funny." And she just kind of chuckle. And I'd be like, okay, maybe it's not that funny. I don't know. I can't tell. I think that's funny. Anyway, who knows?
I'm I'm glad it made your list because I did try several times in several ways to put Wings on my list, and I couldn't think of how it would. So I'm glad it made it into this conversation.
Sean, guilty pleasure.
Sitcom that is my guilty pleasure. This may be a little controversial for several reasons, but guilty pleasure is your first family of animation, The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Explain guilty pleasure. That's interesting.
You don't have to explain yourself, Sean.
I think there was a period of time where it was, I don't know, it's what everybody watched. It was like the big thing, but it has since, I think, become unpopular maybe to enjoy. But I will say that I think in the last few years, people have started to realize how maybe prophetic the show was, and have recognized it as possibly kind of genius. But I think it just went out of fashion. I think it went out of fashion to enjoy The Simpsons, and now it's like, oh, that's still on.
It has been a long time.
And
What are they on now?
Like
30?
25
30
years,
something.
32 seasons.
Yeah, 32
Wow.
seasons.
And that's 32 seasons of its own show? Because it was a sketch comedy on Tracy Ullman.
Right.
before.
No, this is this is,
So it's even older than 32 of its existence.
and that's 32 actual seasons.
Yeah.
Like you're not talking about, that's 32 years. Maybe I kind of see guilty pleasure and underrated as similar in regard, because I always go back to it. I watch it probably multiple times a year, and I always feel like no one would think that's cool. I don't know.
So I'm a nerd, as you know.
I do know this.
And like The Simpsons actually is extremely well thought of in at least in critical circles. It is still, Alan Sepinwall and Matt Zoller Seitz, they did a book called TV, the book, where they rank as many popular television shows as they possibly can. And they're two of the more preeminent television critics of the past, 15, 20 years. And The Simpsons is number one.
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe guilty pleasure, maybe the question itself has more to do with me as a person than the show, because I have a difficult time with this question just in general. I think the last two times we've done this, and then when I just think about the question of guilty pleasure, it flips the question, right? It's not about whether a show is underrated, or but it's more about who I am as a person and how I view
the zeitgeist.
What people. Well, no, I mean, I think that would be underrated or overrated. But maybe this question is more about what I think people think of me. And
on the show, I think you're right too. It's definitely fallen off the public's radar. I think if you told someone right now, "Oh, my favorite show is The Simpsons," I think their response would be like, "Oh, that's still on? Oh, I mean, I guess that's cool." I think it has definitely fallen off. It's a fantastic show. I love it. But when I originally thought you were saying it, I thought you were going to say because as a kid you weren't supposed to watch it, and you did anyway.
Now they let me watch it. I watched it with my family.
No, I was not allowed to watch it.
Neither.
But I snuck and watched it anyway because it's brilliantly funny. But I think you're right. It's fallen off the public's radar as something that is worth their time and attention. I mean, the general public in terms of what's watched all the time.
Yeah.
But then but what I'm saying is I think it's more than that though, even because that would just be underrated, right? I mean, that could be an easy answer for underrated. But what I'm saying is I feel guilty watching it. So the question has more to do with me as a person and how do I feel about what other people think about me, and do they value what I absorb, and does that change the way they view me as a person? Maybe I'm thinking too much.
For watching The Simpsons? Who is being mean to you?
No, that's not what I'm saying. It's perception. Like if I went around telling people, "Hey, I watched The Simpsons,"
Okay, man.
Hi, my name's Sean. I watch The Simpsons.
That's cool. Like it's a good show.
I really like it.
Am I making sense? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like that the question
Yes.
itself, I think about the question itself more internally than I think most people do.
Do you feel guilty recommending The Simpsons?
Yes.
So that I think is the truest probably essence of the
But-
question.
Who would
But
ever recommend The Simpsons? Like
That's
it's
what I'm
so
saying.
iconic that it'd be like, hey, have you ever heard of the show The Simpsons? It's really funny.
No.
There's this guy named Homer.
But there are
and,
people that haven't seen it. There are people that everyone's heard of it. But there are people who are like, yeah, I've never watched that. That's stupid.
I mean, there's a stigma attached to The Simpsons.
Who has never watched The Simpsons?
There are people.
Definitely, there are people.
It's like
100%.
younger.
Like Gen Z?
Yeah.
90.
Maybe so, yeah.
No, I would say older than that. I would almost guarantee you at least half of my church, they know of The Simpsons. They've never seen a single episode, and they don't care to see a single episode. And I think that plays into the guilt. Most of those people that I talked to, if I recommended The Simpsons to them, said, oh, no, it's really funny. They would look at me as less than, like, oh, that's a
Yes.
really crude, crappy humor.
Okay.
Who are you?
Is it because it's
Well,
animation?
I think
No.
that's part of it. I think that's part of it for me, at least. I mean, I can't speak for
Yeah.
Trey, but
No,
I think that's part of it. I think it's crass humor. I think it's animation, which is seen as lesser than.
Yeah.
But I also think that it's like that's been around for 30 something years. Like, you know, so I think you can come at it from different angles of like, that's just nobody watches The Simpsons anymore. And I think if I were to say like, you should watch The Simpsons,
Somebody does.
someone would be like, I don't think Sean's okay.
Now you have the foolproof argument, though. The Simpsons is owned by Disney.
That's true.
Weird.
The Simpsons, the thing is it's gone on for so long that it's you could almost like think of it in terms of like 4 or 5 different shows
Yeah.
in terms of eras. Like if you
And the
split it up
writing.
into eras, because the writing changes
Yeah.
so dramatically. Like, and like most people have their favorite era. Like my favorite era is the era that Conan O'Brien was writing a lot of the episodes. That is to me was peak Simpsons. And so it's almost like when you're talking about The Simpsons, it's like you have to specify an era to even try and put it in a category like this.
If you look back at the 90s, there was a divide between people who were allowed to and were not allowed to watch The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Like it, so there, and
Sure.
that is a reputation that is carried on with The Simpsons, even into obscurity. There's still a drawback to the 90s of it was pretty ahead of its time in terms of its willingness. You know, there was The Simpsons and there was Beavis and Butthead, Rocko's Modern Life. There were different levels
Ren
to
and
the sort
Stimpy.
of that sort of animated level of crassness of what was allowed. Like
Rocko's Modern Life.
Rocko's Modern Life was like the base level, but yeah, there was definitely some crass adult humor in Rocko's Modern Life. Go back and watch it if you haven't in a while.
Dustin wasn't allowed to watch it.
Rocko's Modern Life.
I had to convince my mom to
Interesting.
let me watch
Well,
it.
that's why I'm surprised because my parents like they would not let me watch The Simpsons, Beavis and Butthead, Roseanne,
Ren and Stimpy.
Ren and Stimpy, but I could watch Rocko's Modern Life. That's why that
Yeah.
threw me.
I feel like that's sort of the floor. That's the base level, Rocko's Modern Life. And then it should progress The Simpsons, Ren and Stimpy, Beavis and Butthead. So on.
No one in the last 15 years, no group of friends in the last 15 years has said Rocko's Modern Life more than we have in the past minute.
That's probably very true.
Stacy, what is a sitcom that is your guilty pleasure?
Again, I hate this one because I don't feel guilty for watching it.
We'll be the
But
judge.
it is, oh God. Okay. Have you all ever seen Sick Note?
Yeah, I've never seen it, but
I think I told you to watch it, Sean.
it's got what's
Sick
his name
Note?
from
Rupert Grint.
From Harry Potter?
Yeah, Ron Weasley.
He's Ron Weasley, yeah.
It's a ridiculous show with a ridiculous premise. The guy lies about, well, he thinks he's really sick, but it ends up he's not, and he keeps lying, and the lie like just spirals and spirals and spirals. At one point, Lindsay Lohan is in it. Like, it's just absurd. It's like super cringy funny. I guess like it is a little embarrassing how much I laugh at it because it is just absurd humor. I think there's only 3 seasons of it and it got canceled. It's one of those shows that like got canceled multiple times and somehow came back every time. But it's really good. Rupert Grint is surprisingly funny. Like I never would have thought that he was a funny guy, but it's really funny. You should give it a go.
That's a great premise. Like if that's the show, is that it's just a show that like builds off of him trying to avoid a lie or perpetuate
Telling a lie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's that's seemingly inconsequential lie. That's a good idea for a show.
Good
I
pitch.
do love Rupert Grint, and I'd like to see him in more. He's about to be in another movie that's about to come out.
Is he?
But he's a good actor.
He is. He really is.
So sick note.
You're up, Trey.
Trey, sitcom that you should have seen by now.
Sitcom that I should have seen by now, many. There's many I probably should have seen by now, but one that people have recommended multiple times, and I think it's partly because they say I look like the main character, Workaholics. Workaholics has come up quite a bit.
Okay.
I've heard it's funny.
I can see that.
A lot of people tell me is Adam Devine is the main character, I think. And I go back to the same thing of people tell me I look like him. People tell me I look like Mark Wahlberg. It's sort of if you're a white guy with brunette swooped over hair, like we all look the same. Was it you that told me I look like John Cho?
Yes, you look like a Caucasian John Cho.
Yeah, but even it's that sort of same thing. We all have the same similar white cisgender straight male hairstyle. It all just swoops over to the side.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Joseph
Gordon-Levitt. And the other night, I was watching Promising Young Woman, and I was watching it going, man, Bo Burnham looks like Trey. So I think you're onto something.
But it has been recommended to me multiple times. Half because people think it's funny, half because people say I look like Adam Devine, and therefore I should watch it because we look similar. But
I don't see it.
Part of why I think is multiple people have recommended it, but I have never seen a single episode. I've never even seen a clip. I've never seen a scene. I've never seen the second of it. And I feel like at some point with all of the people who've talked about it, I should have seen something of it by now.
I think you're onto something though about like just any kind of visual representation in your scope. Like I've never even seen anyone use a GIF of it, like in a text or anything, or no clips on social media. I think there's something to that.
Well, I think I
don't know anything about it.
We have such access to everything that Comedy Central used to show. We have virtually unlimited access to now. Even with The Daily Show, I used to watch it when Jon Stewart was on there, but that was also 15 years ago when you couldn't just search. Like Trevor Noah does a bit, it's going to be on YouTube 30 minutes later. So I feel like Comedy Central, more than most shows, has really just fallen off the radar in terms of what it can provide by watching the channel instantly.
That's Comedy Central, I feel like, in a nutshell. Like so many of their shows like have been discovered on the back end of their existence. Like Nathan For You is a brilliant show that I would not have been on my radar had I not heard about it on the ticket. And that is it doesn't fit into this category, but it is one of the funniest shows ever made. So yeah, I think a lot of Comedy Central shows like just went past the public consciousness, and they all end up kind of being word of mouth shows. And I feel like Workaholics is kind of that. TV show that I should have seen by now. It's not Schitt's Creek, though I did consider it. I feel like now I should just put it on there. I also considered Ted Lasso. That's another one that I keep hearing is so good, and I need to watch it.
I'm not going to recommend it. I'm not going to recommend it. I will not recommend it.
You've already.
Nope. I retract it.
No, the only answer, honestly, that I can provide for this, the one that makes the most sense, is What We Do in the Shadows, because it really makes no sense that I haven't seen it, because I adore the movie that it's based on. And I honestly don't know why I still haven't gotten around to watching it.
And we shouldn't talk about it in hopes that you will
No,
see
I
it.
don't think there's a way that you can I think that's a set thing. I will watch that. There's no way you can.
Okay, good.
Again, because of the movie.
I think I've pumped it up pretty good with you. I think I've texted you a handful of times saying you should watch it, or that I've heard they talk, they interview him.
Not really. You will text me about once a month.
Have you
and
seen
say,
it?
hey, have you watched What We Do in the Shadows yet?
Okay.
And I'll say no, and then you just go, okay.
Okay.
That's it.
Well, that's because I know you and I love you, and I'm not going to say anything further.
I watched the first episode and I was like, this is weird. And then I never watched it again. And then after like a couple of months, I heard them talking about it on the ticket. I heard, and I was like, okay, maybe I'll go back and visit it. What We Do in the Shadows, I so enjoyed the nuance of each episode that I decided I'm not going to watch more than one a week, because I want it to last, and I don't know when they're coming back with future seasons.
Yeah, and the thing I adored about it was that it had the same vibe as that movie. And then the ticket, their interview with Kayvon Novak, who plays Nandor.
And the whole story arc with Guillermo, like the twist of his like character and what he becomes, it's as a familiar Guillermo the Familiar. It's so good and it's so subtle. It's really, really good writing. It's very funny.
A television series will really hook me in based on what I can use from it in real life, and this particular one, it's the energy vampire, Colin
Yes.
Robinson.
See, I haven't seen it, but I've heard of that bit, and it's brilliant.
Yes.
So
Yes,
good.
Because we all know energy vampires.
Exactly. And that's what hooked me in, because I thought the show was hilarious, but the fact that I can pinpoint energy vampires in my life makes
and
me
we'll
think
start naming them now.
Makes me think it makes me think of the show on a regular basis. It keeps it just fresh in my mind constantly, and it keeps me laughing even after I've watched the show. And I think that's one of those special kind of connections with a sitcom that you don't get often.
All right, Sean, show that you should have seen by now.
Sitcom I should have seen by now. Again, I had a long list for this one, actually. So this is one of my harder ones, just to try to pinpoint. But I'm going to go ahead and say Curb Your Enthusiasm. I'll be honest, I have not watched Seinfeld all the way through, but I've seen enough of it that I think I can say that I've seen enough of it. But Curb Your Enthusiasm, I think I tried. I think I watched the first few episodes, and I just haven't. I just haven't. So part of it is that it's been on so long now that I feel like it's a bit of a daunting task to go back and try to watch it all.
Think shortened seasons. The seasons aren't very long.
Well, that's good to hear.
I mean, I don't know if this is popular or unpopular. It's better than Seinfeld, just in terms of its comedic value. I mean, I love the raw nature of it. I have never seen an anti-hero in anything other than Larry David that I've rooted for, while simultaneously thinking this guy is a genuine asshole, but I also kind of want him to win.
I kind of see his point, though.
Yeah,
he's being a dick
making
about this,
valid
but
points.
he's not wrong.
Yeah,
He's not wrong.
it's a good show.
I think it 100% completely hinges on Larry David, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But like more so than most shows. Like I think you either latch on to Larry David or you don't.
Yeah.
And I considered putting Curb as show that I can watch over and over again, which I did Seinfeld instead. But that's because like Curb is another just one of those, like I will throw it on just to get in a good mood, because there's just something about Larry David, well, that conception, that character of Larry David, that is so freeing, because it's just this guy living life and saying what he wants to say. And there is something like you almost live vicariously through him
So much.
even though things never end up good.
It doesn't end up good, but then you blame society. You're like, but he's not wrong. The
Right.
rest of you are.
Yeah. But it also, it's one of those that you kind of have to get on its wavelength, because it's not like Arrested Development where it's just like a laugh a minute. It's more, each episode is more of a slow burn that has little moments that again, like Seinfeld, lead to a big punchline at the end. It's narrative comedy. If I just made that up, but like it's narrative. It's using the art form of a narrative to tell like a long joke.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you said, just like Seinfeld, it uses the A, B, and C plot.
Yeah.
And you have three funny things happening throughout the episode that in the end, they all come together in this brilliant comedic flash. And it just, I mean, I don't know if there's an episode that ends that I'm not just dying laughing with the result of what has happened.
Yeah.
And part of that's just because I like kind of what Michael said. Most of the things Larry David says in the show are like, man, I wish I could say that.
Yeah.
I wish I had the balls to say that.
Does the show follow like a plot like throughout the entire series? Like, do you have to watch it in order?
Yes.
It definitely helps.
And I think that's the problem.
Not necessarily throughout the series, but I do think each season for the most part, each season is kind of one big arc with little stories told in between. But most seasons lead to something in the end of the season.
Really, Curb Your Enthusiasm is a character piece. It is a pure character piece about Larry David. What he says is a fictional Larry David. I think he plays it a little too well for it to be entirely fictional. And for it to be fictional and George Costanza to actually be based on him, there's a little too much overlap there.
One of the seasons is basically like the season itself is basically a Seinfeld reunion. They and again, like Jerry and Larry, like they do basically a reunion in a completely different way than you would think, by just bringing the actors as themselves into the season, where because Larry David plays himself who did Seinfeld, like that's covered, but in one of the seasons they try and do a new special, they try to make a new Seinfeld reunion special in the show, and that's the season is like them making the Seinfeld special that isn't real. And
Got it.
it's genius. Like it is genius. And like and you even get those like goosebump moments that you would in a Seinfeld reunion, but in a completely different way, because they're filming it. And of course, Larry is getting into all kinds of trouble with the cast, and like it's a great show.
Part of the reason I can't get into it farther, maybe, is because I adore him, and he's so perfect that I can't connect with anybody else in the show, and so I watch him, but everybody else kind of falls flat to me, at least starting out. And so I'm like, well, I mean, he's great, but
the thing is it's almost like he's surrounded by straight men. All right, Stacey, show the sitcom that you should have seen by now.
Seinfeld. And I'm
yes,
sure we have said every single thing that needs to be said about it, but I've never seen a single episode. And it's one of those ones where I'm not even sure why I haven't seen a single episode. And everyone I know loves Seinfeld. I've never watched it.
I don't know if you'd like the show itself or not. I definitely think there's a couple episodes at least because Seinfeld is definitely something you can pick up and watch almost any episode,
Yeah.
save for the last season.
Standalone.
You could watch almost anything, and it's pretty standalone.
Yeah.
And there are people I know who don't like Seinfeld, who can find one or two episodes that are humorous and speak to their humor.
If you are going to watch it, I would say do what I did, which this is one of the only shows that I ever did this with Jenny with, but possibly because it was so much. But Jenny and I, like, I went through and just basically made a list of my favorite episodes or episodes that were really popular, and showed her those episodes. So if you were going to go and watch it, that's what I would suggest is like go online, look for like the 10 best Seinfeld episodes somewhere or whatever, and then watch those episodes.
That's smart.
It's so widely syndicated. I'm just surprised you've never seen a single episode.
Yeah, that is kind of
Never
surprising.
Single episode.
Like you could easily just stumble onto one.
Nope.
Accidentally. It's like, oh God, how did I get here? I'm watching Seinfeld all of a sudden.
I was watching Rocco's Modern Life, and then Seinfeld came on.
Oh God, something terrible happened.
All right, final one. Trey,
I don't even need to look.
Sitcom that you love.
The sitcom that I love, the TV show that I love. It was my first love, truly, from a very young age, and I still love it. I can watch it over and over again. It is completely and totally underrated. Even though it won multiple awards, it is my all-time favorite television show, Frasier. I love it. My dog is named after the dog off of Frasier. I mean, really, I was like an 8-year-old kid begging my mom to let me watch Frasier, and we would watch it all the time. And I've always thought it was funny. It is the only television show that I have ever owned and still own every single season on DVD. I really, truly could not even begin to guess how many times I have watched Frasier through beginning to end. There was a time where I was watching it with a former girlfriend in high school, and she almost broke up with me because I wouldn't stop quoting Frasier as we were watching it together. I knew every line, and I was saying it, and I thought it was funny. It's just such a beautiful, brilliant, fun comedy.
I love that there somewhere out there is a woman who will talk about how she had a boyfriend who was just really weird about Frasier. And in fact, that actually reminds me of a Seinfeld episode where Elaine is dating that guy who every time the song Desperado comes on the radio, he won't let her talk.
Well, I also have a wife that would probably be like, why do you like that show? Becca hates Frasier. She doesn't think it's funny at all. She made it through 4 episodes of Frasier before she said, I can't do this anymore.
I get it. He's smart.
He's funny and smart.
I mean, I watched probably every single episode. There was a time where if it was on NBC, like I watched it.
Yeah.
I was a big NBC kid.
Did you? Well, yeah, you guys probably didn't watch Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, but
No, but I've heard about his wife.
yeah, his wife was on there, and he had like super encouraged her to be on the show. And while he was on the or she was on the show, he was doing some play and cheating on her the entire time. And you like watch the scenes that they're in together, and he's so nasty. Like he's just gross.
Yeah, he's been married like 4 or 5 times and cheated on every single one of his wives.
But it's like
gotten someone else pregnant while he was married.
Oh my God.
Like 3 times.
Yeah, and you see him like interacting. It's so gross.
Look, I'm not saying I love Frasier because Kelsey Grammer is a role model for all of us. I'm saying that he and David Hyde Pierce and Jane Leaves and Perry Gilpin and John Mahoney are a brilliantly funny ensemble cast and it is a well-written show.
Sitcom that I love. I did not approach this in the same way as Trey did. Like Trey, like legitimately, I feel like obviously kind of put your favorite sitcom of all time in here. I didn't do that. I basically used this as a slot for like something that I got really passionate about, or am, I guess, really passionate about that I just haven't mentioned yet. And I really want to mention it before we're done. The sitcom that I love is Master of None. This is Aziz Ansari's show on Netflix. He's done 2 seasons. The first season is great. The second season is one of the best seasons of television I think I've ever seen. It is so good. And they toe that line between comedy and pathos. And so much of it is just about like really fascinating kind of racial issues and being Indian in America, but then also like one of his friends, one of his good friends is Black, and she's Black and gay, and there's one whole episode that's like dedicated to her over a series of Thanksgivings. And it's so good. Like it's just such a great show. And so like I said, the second season, I got so emotionally involved in this show, unlike I have in a long time. It's one of the better arcs that I've ever seen of a relationship forming. And yeah, like by the end of it, I knew that I was just way too emotionally involved, but I think it ends on a perfect note. And for the longest time, I honestly thought like this was going to be it. Cause he kind of, after the second season was just like, I don't know if we're going to do more. Cause I don't necessarily have like anything that I feel like I need to say right now, maybe a little bit down the line, if they're willing. But they just announced that they're doing a 3rd season. So that's coming out, or they're about to start filming.
I don't think I've seen the second season. I loved the first season.
Oh yeah. The second season's brilliant. He goes to Italy. It's a whole great arc.
I don't know how I missed this.
Oh my gosh, Sean. Yeah. You need to watch that.
All right. I'll go back.
So good.
I really don't know how I missed this.
Like the first season is really good, but the second season is like, damn.
Okay. All right.
Like he goes all out.
That's like really the romantic interest, sort of like dealing with a bad breakup, like sort of how you find yourself. It's good. It's good stuff.
Okay. I had no idea.
Yeah. So that episode you were talking about, Michael, is the Thanksgiving episode with his Black lesbian female friend.
I forget her name. She's in
the character was written for her.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't originally supposed to be a thing, but it's the whole arc of them devoting an episode to showing what it is like for even in the Black community specifically, what it is like for a person to come out and be known within Black culture, especially, is profound and a really, really good episode. Dax Shepard basically says that Master of None he thinks it's the greatest like sitcom TV show ever. He talks about it quite a bit in his podcast, but there's a lot of good stuff throughout.
I said Lena Waithe is her name, by the way, the actress who plays that role.
She's from Ready Player One.
Really good. She is in Ready Player One. Yeah.
I didn't know that it was that good. Like I had no idea that it was that acclaimed.
Yeah.
I will watch it.
All right, Sean, sitcom that you love.
Sitcom that I love. I don't even have to look at the list. It's Arrested Development.
Such a great show.
So good.
I think we've talked quite a bit about it already.
In the previous episode.
Well, yeah, but this is a continuation of that episode.
If you are listening to this and you have not heard, if you started at a part 2 of an episode,
right,
there's something you need help. There's something
Right.
off.
Why would you do that?
Why would you do that?
But we can just reiterate our love as if no one is listening for the first time.
As if no one is listening.
Yeah, well, that's probably smart for multiple reasons, but I think Arrested Development was when I, along with so many other people, I'm sure, fell in love with Jason Bateman, and everyone on that show makes me laugh.
It's a joke. It's a joke a second.
It really is.
It is
It's
so
nonstop.
fast. It's the opposite. It's like the opposite of Curb Your Enthusiasm in terms of like pacing. It is just a joke a second, and they're all really funny. And the thing is they're so funny that sometimes you just miss what's going on because you're laughing.
Yes.
And that's why it's so rewatchable to me, is because you will find different things every time you rewatch it.
Well, I feel like jokes are embedded too. Like,
yeah.
And if you missed something 4 episodes ago, you're gonna miss it in this episode.
Yeah.
So good.
And the callbacks and the continuations and the references that are easily missable. But the payoff is beautiful. The payoff on those callbacks. And even, I mean, just the little things. I mean, the fact that Job's name is spelled G-O-B makes me laugh. And that's like the lowest level.
I'm hiding around on that Segway, and he has a little.
Yes, so good. Opening the rival banana stand.
Oh my gosh, there's always money in the banana stand. Also, just the brilliance of having fake next time on segments.
Yes.
To again use it as a time to call back to jokes is brilliant. That's a brilliant idea.
And honestly, footage not found. I mean, that I mean, my goodness.
That might be the best running gag in the series.
The best, absolutely.
It's a brilliant ensemble cast supported by a brilliant supporting cast as well. Like a brilliant ensemble cast, but then also to be supported by Liza Minnelli, Henry Winkler, Henry Winkler, and then so understated, people don't talk about it enough. Ron Howard is the narrator, just the deadpan, one of my favorite recurring bits is he wanted to do this, or he did this thing, and then Ron Howard, he did not. He did not.
Do you ever do something and you have Ron Howard in your head?
Yeah.
All right, so this is a good segue into a tweet This is a good segue into a text that I got today from our buddy Sean Carlton again.
Hey, Sean.
He texted me today. Big Bang Theory is the antithesis of Arrested Development. Big Bang Theory is a show about smart people for dumb people. Arrested Development is a show about dumb people for smart people.
Wow.
And then he followed Sean. And then he followed that up with me and Trey are fighting.
Agree to disagree.
I think we need to get Sean on the podcast so that you and Sean can hash it out. Y'all actually have a lot in common.
I have a little bit of a crush on both of you, so
except for Led Zeppelin and Big Bang Theory, apparently.
Hey, listen, while we're at it, I need to retract. I need to say that my brother Jeremy.
Yes.
I need to offer an apology. So I'm gonna get into the Jeremy, I'm sorry. My brother Jeremy does not like Big Bang Theory, and I have besmirched his name, his good name, as a Big Bang Theory not enjoyer. So I'm sorry, Jeremy. I told him I would retract my statement, and I have done that, and we can move on, and I will apologize.
And that's a big hit by Castellanos.
I may never put on this headset again. And Michael will take you the rest of the way.
Okay. All right, Stacy, sitcom that you love.
We've already talked about this for hours and hours and hours, and
All right.
everything is possibly could be said has been said. But it's The Office. We talked so much about The Office already.
We did.
So much.
Well, it's a great sitcom.
It
It
is.
really is just
It
great.
is. And I'm really upset with the whole Netflix thing, and I still haven't bought. Like, I need to buy the season so I can watch it, or the series so I can watch it. When I get sad, I watch the dinner party episode, and like not that long ago. I don't even
Just
remember what
watched it.
happened. And I was like, I was legitimately upset. Like, I had honestly been, I don't even know what happened, but I had been crying and I went to go turn it on. And I was like, no, how dare you do this to me, Netflix? Like, it was a very dramatic moment for me. I texted my cousins for moral support and everything, but they were like, just buy the damn series like the rest of us have.
I like to randomly go watch the outtake of when Michael pulls the TV away from the wall.
Yes.
And John
never seen
Krasinski
that.
starts laughing.
Yes.
There's an outtake because he's like, yeah, if I just stand here and just watch it for, and he like, but he just pulls it and it's like
Pulls it out and then he says, room's getting too crowded. Just push it back in. And it's like a 4-inch difference.
I don't know why that's my go-to episode, but it is. I just like there's something in my body that needs to see it to be okay.
After Scott's Tatso, you mean?
No, never.
That's a great episode though.
No.
That the candles, doesn't she mention the candles in that
Yes.
episode? So ridiculous.
And then the Hunter's song, You Took Me by
Hunter's
the
song.
Hand, Made Me a Man. The awkward, comfortable, uncomfortable.
I had
The
this
arguing.
idea, Trey, for your and Becca's wedding present. I wanted to take that song and put it like I wanted to laser engrave a frame
Oh my
and
god.
then put your and Becca's picture in the frame. I
Oh
wanted
my
to so badly, but Justin was like, "That's stupid," and he made
would've been-
was
He made
it?
us a Shroot Farms cutting
Yeah.
board. We have it
He
on
made
our
you a
counter.
Street Farms cutting board instead.
Dinner party is I feel it's inarguable that it's the greatest episode of the American Office. I mean, it is certainly the funniest.
The whole thing with Dwight and his babysitter.
His babysitter.
It's purely carnal.
Can I get your email? I have so many questions. Let's email.
All right, that's us. Thank you for listening. If you want to disagree with us, you can email us at kellerbearhasapodcast@gmail.com. And then Stacy's going to take you the rest of the way.
Bye.
I'm watching. I'm watching for you, Sean Carlton.
You should, Trey.
I may never put on this headset again.
I have 3 more things to say about Schitt's Creek.
Go ahead.